Great. I'm just kind of looking at the chat. It is so nice to see all of you joining, and I'm recognizing names of people I know or have met, but have never seen on a Forest and Watershed Health Coordinating Group meeting before. And as much as we miss the in-person time, it is really great to see you all here participating virtually, including some folks who I know if you were to attend an in-person meeting in Albuquerque, you'd be looking at, 4 to 8 hours of driving. So there is a silver lining to the use of the technology, even if I can't turn my video camera on today. So, okay, it's 4 after. I think I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm Laura McCarthy. I'm the state forester, and welcome everyone to, what is this, the 54th meeting? Is that right? Yeah. Of the coordinating group. Started in 2004 and has been meeting every quarter since then, which is really awesome. By the way, for those of you who have your cameras on, I really appreciate it because there's nothing worse than talking to a black screen. So thank you. All right, so let me start with this kind of cryptic item on your agenda, summary of the Executive Leadership Summit. What on earth does that mean? It's referring to the Shared Stewardship Agreement. And as you all may recall, in 2019, the governor and the chief of the U.S. Forest Service signed a Shared Stewardship Agreement. I think at the time we were like the 20th state to sign such an agreement, or maybe 14th, something like that. And now there are more than 30 states that have shared stewardship agreements. And there were 6 items of substance in our agreement. And one of them was that while the agreement is between the state and the Forest Service, the very first item of substance is that the coordinating group, this coordinating group, is the body that provides collective input into shared stewardship. So that's going to be something that we're going to be talking about throughout the morning today. And this Executive Leadership Summit that's referred to on your agendas is a meeting that happened on September 30th between the state with myself and our senior leadership team, plus all of our district foresters, with the regional office, the regional forester herself, Michiko Martin, the regional leadership, members of the regional leadership team, like Ian Fox, known to all of you, I'm sure, did a lot of the organizing and planning. And all the forest supervisors were there as well. And what we did is we worked on a joint program of work for FY22. So we took all the work that's taken place over the last year, starting with the priority landscapes that were identified out of our statewide forest action plan, and then drilling down into what's NEPA ready and what's the program of the shared program of work going to be for FY22. Not a perfect process, but really important. And, I see some folks like Gennaro Falcone on here, and, who's really at the level where the rubber, he's at the level where he's getting things done, implementing programs of work. And I just really want to acknowledge that it's a work in progress, and it's change to have this shared stewardship. And at the end of the day, we all really care about the work that happens on the national forest and off the national forest. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And you know, having seen now that basically, if you look at the top 100 watersheds in New Mexico, top 100, our forest action plan gets at the top 500, but the top 100 in terms of fire risk to communities, water source protection, and biodiversity protection, 95% of the top 100 are on the national forest, and that's why we all care so much. I also want to say that we made a decision when we were doing the forest action plan jointly with the Forest Service, the state and the Forest Service, to use the scenario investment planning and the work that Alan Agar and Michelle Day did. And a lot of you got to see the sausage being made in that process through various our quarterly coordinating group meetings. And, you know, that was, it was both a technical decision and a strategic decision. And the strategic part is really paying off. I was at a meeting last week with USDA Deputy Undersecretary Merrill Harrell and the new Forest Service Chief, Randy Moore, and I had an opportunity to present about the New Mexico Forest Action Plan, and they were really impressed. And I think New Mexico is earning, you know, we're the small and mighty state. I mean, we're a big state. We're small in terms of population, and we're, you know, still working with bubble gum and duct tape in terms of resources for the most part. But we managed to get a lot done. And part of that is by being strategic. So the point here is shared stewardship isn't going away. And New Mexico is extremely well positioned because of the coordinating group and its deep history and engagement at the local level, because we made the strategic decision to use the scenario investment planning, which is also being used nationally to allocate resources, and because we have a strong shared stewardship framework that we're all engaged in. All right, I'm going to totally switch gears now and go to 30 by 30. You perhaps saw that the governor issued an executive order on August 25th. It's a 30 by 30 executive order. And some people are really excited about it, and some people are really anxious about it and concerned about what it may mean. It is still pretty vague, but here's what I can tell you about why we wanted to issue this executive order. The first thing is we have a lot of conservation opportunity in New Mexico. We are the land of enchantment. We have amazing resources. We have incredible biodiversity. We know, for example, from our rare plant monitoring, that all of the species, the 45 plant species on the state endangered list, their populations are going down. We know we have opportunity to conserve for future generations. And we don't want the federal government to tell us how to do it. By having an executive order that directs state agencies to work together, it gives us the direction, us being state agencies, the direction to work on it. And once we figured out what conservation means for us in New Mexico, then we can negotiate with the Department of the Interior and USDA and the other agencies. That's number one. Number two, I'm sorry, it's a Friday. We don't want them to tell us what to do. We want to decide for ourselves. And I know there's another reason. Well, maybe it'll
The
come back to me.
definitions of areas.
No, it's not that detailed. I mean, that's what I was getting at. We want to be by figuring it out for ourselves, we can, oh, I know. Okay, thank you, Nick, though, that was a trigger. The other piece and the other really important reason for us is, so the 30 by 30 goal that came out or goals, plural, that came out in the both the federal America the Beautiful initiative, and then it's repeated in the executive order, is the goal is 30% conserved. So we'll be defining what that means, and 20% in climate stabilization, whatever that is. So we're going to be defining that. And I would argue, we will argue that climate stabilization is equivalent to all the work we've been doing under the umbrella of natural and working lands. That is working forests, working agricultural lands that are sequestering carbon and contributing majorly, not just to stabilizing the climate, but also to our reliable water supply, in the face of rising temperatures and increased evapotranspiration, et cetera, et cetera. So those two reasons alone, to me, should hopefully reassure those who are anxious that this could be some kind of a land grab, which it is definitely not, and hopefully create a little more comfort with the concepts. And the committee, that's a task force of state agencies, has not met yet, and we're still like in the setup stage. As well, we don't have clarity yet about what the stakeholder process will be, but we know there will be one. And, separately, not in this meeting per se, if people have thoughts about what that stakeholder process could look like, we're accepting input. Funding updates. I'll be brief because I realize I only have 4 minutes left to keep us on task here. So you've all been reading in the newspaper about the federal infrastructure bill and the reconciliation bill. There's negotiation happening. There's wild cuts being made. Who knows where it'll end up, but I think what we do know is there is going to be some level of funding, extra funding for our forest and watershed, our collective forest and watershed work. And that funding, I think, is going to come in a variety of different colors and streams. And my message to you all as people who do projects is get ready. Be thinking about, when there's opportunity, where you want it to go. What are you ready to get out there in the field and do? That's really important, because when the money comes, we're hoping that, first of all, it will have clarity about the administrative processes. Nobody wants to get hit with a bad federal audit because we didn't understand the rules of engagement, and that did happen when under the Obama administration's era, the American Recovery and Rescue Act. It did happen then. So we're asking for clarity, and we'll be wanting to transmit, be as transparent about any and all information that we get about how it's going to work. But those are details for down the line. The message for right now is be thinking about the good work that can get done with this potentially, once in a decade, once maybe in a career kind of opportunity to get work done. We have our framework in the forest action plan. We have our priority landscapes and focal areas, and we may actually get gas in the tank to get some things accomplished. Last thing is, so Forest and Watershed Restoration Act, otherwise known as FARA, and that we have just finished the guidelines for FY23. I see some of our advisory board members on the Zoom or in the WebEx today, which is great. So the guidelines are now posted on the Forestry Division website, or if they're not, they will be soon. They should be. And the deadline is February 1. Remember, it's not a grant program. The collaboration part of it is to work with the district foresters, and I think they're on here, and you should all know them by now. And they've introduced themselves in the chat. And if you're confused about which district forester to work with, go ahead and ask. And the point is that it's not a grant program. It does have to be competitively awarded. And we want to make sure that the projects are really useful, are really the best possible projects. And that's where we want input. But there is, through the district foresters who submit the applications, but you got to also be aware that if you're thinking that your organization is going to receive money directly through a FARA project, then you can't be involved in the development of the project. And I realize that's like anti-collaborative, but it's also the way state procurement law is written. Maybe we need a bill in the 60-day session to create an exemption for forest and watershed restoration so that we really can be collaborative. But that's a long ways off. I'm planting a seed. We would love to change the process, but that's not what we got now, and we're going to have to work with what we have now.